All right, welcome to day 3, everybody, of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So far, an overwhelming show of Republican unity seems to be galvanizing behind the former President Trump, who is now the nominee of his party. He emerged triumphant following an attempt on his life just 4 days ago, and he's been here every night until pretty late at night, watching and enjoying all of what is playing out here. Meanwhile, huge contrast to what is happening on the other side. His opponent, President Biden, is under increasing pressure to leave the race, and it's coming from people in his own party, in the Congress, his own administration, well, not at the White House, but people who are on his side clearly. And today, Democrat Congressman Adam Schiff is now the 20th to demand that the president drop out of the race. Nearly 2/3 of Democrat voters also say that they want President Biden to step aside and let someone else take on former President Trump. Let's bring in our panel. Marc Thiessen, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute and Fox News contributor. Jack Brewer, chairman and founder of the Jack Brewer Foundation. And Harold Ford Jr., who has been with us throughout the week on all of these great panels, co-host of The Five, and former Democratic congressman from Tennessee. So, Harold, let me begin with you. Does Schiff's move make a difference? Is this, and do you also believe that the president needs to step aside and that he likely can't win?
First, thanks for having me. Just as a comment, I think the Secret Service director should at least be suspended while this investigation is underway, and maybe even further. But I think President Biden is coming to going to have to come to accept the growing realization amongst a lot of Democrats that he may not have the ability to compete in this election. He's had an incredible service journey, and he should not view anything that Adam Schiff, and I'll come to him in one moment, anything that any of these members are saying as a statement about his service overall. He's just reached a point in his career like Tom Brady did, where you can't play anymore. I use that for the Jack Brewer on the show. Two, Democrats realize that there are real serious differences between President Trump and Senator Vance and what we stand for as a party. And I think there's a growing realization that President Biden doesn't have the energy, doesn't have the abilities to make that case. And it's all, whether fair or unfair, a result of what we saw 3 weeks ago in that debate. And since that debate, Martha, we've been on shows together. President Trump has offered him another debate. He declined it. He's had several interviews and a press conference where he didn't really measure up. This Lester Holt interview was an embarrassment. And I think a lot of Democrats are, again, coming to accept reluctantly and painfully that if we expect to win, and not only him expect to win, but down ballot expect to win, we're going to need a new candidate.
Wow. Well, 4 months away from Election Day, and very definitive statements coming from a lot of people. I want to play this interview, part of what you just mentioned, Harold, from the CBS Evening News interview with President Biden. And listen very carefully to what he says here. Watch.
If the doctors came to me and said, you got this problem, that problem. But I made a serious mistake in the whole debate. And look, when I originally ran, you may remember it, I said I was going to be a transitional candidate. And I thought that I'd be able to move from this, just pass it on to someone else. But I didn't anticipate things getting so divided. There's more to do, and I'm reluctant to walk away from that.
Reluctant to walk away from it, and says, I haven't heard him address that directly, Jack Brewer, that when he ran, he only intended to stay for one term.
He would have never said that, obviously, when he ran. And I think now he's getting pressure from not only his family, but for those that have been uplifted because he's come to power. But I think now he's realizing just what the American people are seeing. He has to face it now. Before, you had the left-wing media that really wasn't showing you truly who Joe Biden was. And now we've all seen him. And I don't think it's just about Joe Biden. I think it's also about the Republican Party. The Republican Party is changing. You've seen this entire convention when you have Amber Rose and you have some of the most prominent voices in our nation now are standing up for Donald Trump, his message, and what it stands for. And I think that's really what's happening. I think it's sending a shockwave through the Democratic Party, and it's creating a lot of fear.
Yeah, you make great points, Jack. You know, we've watched people in the media, Marc Thiessen, vacillate on Morning Joe, like one day they think he should leave, the next day they think he should stay. Here is a moment from the back and forth between Congressman Andy Kim, who is probably champing at the bit to take Menendez's seat before the election, and Joe Scarborough. And watch what the dynamic here.
This is a decision, again, for the president. This is a decision for the nominee. In terms of the strategy going forward, I'm not just saying
Congressman, he's made the decision. He's running. He's in it to win it.
I'm talking about the strategy, the message. How do we close those final points? That's what I want to hear from him.
So every time somebody opens the question, right, they oh, let's put it back on the table. And you see what happens, Mark. Just wait 1 second. So here is the moment that we always see at these conventions. And this is the former president, Donald Trump, and this getting ready for his big night. So tomorrow night is the night when he will step on this stage and he will give his speech accepting the nomination of his party. It's a huge moment. And as we know, former President Trump is always very detail-oriented when it comes to television, presentation, what all of this should look like. And you can see him sort of getting a little bit of a briefing on what it's going to be like out there. Thoughts on that, Mark?
On that, look, I think that Joe Biden ran in 2020 on a platform of uniting the country and ending the chaos. Tomorrow night, Donald Trump will give a speech on uniting the country and ending the chaos. He is taking Joe Biden's successful 2020 playbook and turning it against him. We have flipped the script in this election. Joe Biden has unleashed chaos in this country more than anyone thought he could in 2020, and he's given us more division than we ever thought. And so Trump is going to turn that around on him. And I don't think it matters whether or not Joe Biden is on the ticket or not. The Democrats, if they remove Joe Biden, Americans are still paying $125 for a $100 basket of groceries. Americans are still paying $20 or $30 more every time they fill up their tanks. The problem is not just Joe Biden and his cognitive decline. It's the policies. The cognitive decline is proof of the incompetence, but the policies are what Americans are upset about, and that's why I think they're stuck no matter what they do.
And if he were way ahead in the polls, they would be ignoring the cognitive
Absolutely.
decline. That we wouldn't be hearing any of this. So you can see these sort of undergirded problems with the policy that are really forcing a lot of these decisions to the forefront. Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks to Harold Ford Jr. and Jack Brewer. We always love having them with us as well.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.